This is Boots, my brother's goober dog. He likes long walks in the field, playing tug-of-war, licking cats, and harassing old ladies. He's a bit incorrigible, always wanting attention while we are trying to work.
Hey, down, down, down!
We call him a goober dog because, well, one day my brother and I hatched a plan. He asked me if it would be possible to create a device that was a spring-powered rope puller, similar to the type of thing that you have for a cat, except when it's cat-sized, it's much easier to have a spring that just flicks a little feather back and forth. Making something big enough for a dog that's able to reach your shoulders if he stands on his hind legs is a bit of a different task. I went through a few ideas before I finally drew up the most simple option I could think of. The basis of it is going to be an old axle that my dad had lying around in the junk pile. Took the axle into the shop, measured out about 3 feet of the shaft, and then cut that sucker off. Even just being 3 feet, it is still heavy enough to keep itself upright. Or upside down, you know what I mean. I'm going to be welding some square tubing on top of that, and the tubing is much lighter than the shaft of the axle, so that's what I mean by it staying upright. I drilled some holes in some angle irons for tabs to go over the bolts of the axle. This is probably one of the cheesier parts of the process. I tried to kind of make some custom parts to fit on top of each other by just welding some other angle irons together that are the right size for another piece of square tubing to go inside of it. Because I didn't want to get the whole thing on there right now, because it's a little too much to work with all in one go. I wanted to make a slot for it and get that squared up before I put the rest of the tubing on. But even that was hard to get squared up because I don't think the axle was really sitting straight. A lot of it just came down to holding it in the right place, tacking the little tabs on, and just hoping that nothing got too askew. What I ended up with was this little square moonlander looking thing. It looks flimsy compared to what I'm used to welding, but it ended up being pretty sturdy, and it definitely holds up well enough for what I needed to do. I drilled multiple holes. This was originally meant to make the arm adjustable because I wasn't sure how high it should be. I made it tall enough that I thought it would be convenient for Boots to grab the rope. But I realized along the way that basically means its head height, which could leave a bit of a bonking risk. So far that hasn't been a problem, and I was able to use the multiple hole heights as actually just an extra adjustment method, because later on we realized the springs were a little too loose, so I was able to tighten them up just by moving those holes around. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. I wanted to attach 2 springs, so I welded little rod sections onto the arm. Everything is just attached with hose clamps, but that didn't always work. Sometimes the hose clamps broke because they weren't really tightening down right, and they just kind of wore the threads off of the clamp. I wasted a few of them, but I got enough to work. The spring at the top is actually an old welder spring. There's always these big springs at the base of the cable, just to keep things from kinking. And the spring is actually a little bit wider at the bottom, which means that I'm actually able to thread things up through it a bit. I had a pipe that was about the right size anyway, but I actually added my own custom threads. Here you can see me using a Sharpie to mark the space in between the spring coils. I just welded a bunch of beads along those Sharpie marks and then dynafiled them out smooth. It's not a very clean thread, but it does stay in there. It's exactly what the pipe needs to stay stuck in the spring so that you can't just tear it off. We dug a hole in the ground, but we did have to use the tractor to kind of shove the axle down the rest of the way. Honestly, I could probably have afforded to cut the axle a little shorter, but I mean, this way it is in the ground. This was really just the better option as opposed to having to like tamp the dirt down underneath the axle, or underneath, you know, the actual wheel part. I don't know how we'd get it down to the surface of the ground without shoving it with the tractor, but I digress. Well, it probably needs a washer. Hey, Dad! 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 Kitty!
Hurry. I've been fooled by zip ties in the past, thinking that they could withstand the awesome power of the motor.
Well, hopefully.
However, 4 or 5.
Yeah, hopefully 4. And the way it's positioned, like, in the spring,
Sure.
hopefully it will have more grip on the rope. Okay, so, in theory...
Booters!
Booter, 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 booter!
Come on! Come here. Yeah. Toy.
Not the cat,
Okay.
not the cat.
Come on.
Booty.
Come on. Come on. Grab it.
He's got to smell it first. Come on. Yeah.
Oh. This is gonna be fun.
So are you filming it?
Yeah.
Good boy.
First impressions were pretty great. Emphasis on the first impressions. Because, like, Boots took to this thing very quickly. He figured it out, and he liked to play with it, and he was playing with it a lot for the first few days. And then now that I'm recording this, like, a month away, I don't know if he plays with it anymore. So that's a little bit anticlimactic, but he sure did get a kick out of it in that first week or so. Like, I was astounded by how well it worked. And even if Boots doesn't play with it as much as I would like him to play with it, the thing worked. Like, my craftsmanship did its job. Multiple people have told me that I could make more and sell them. But I'm probably not going to.
The stalemate. we just wait and wait and wait.
From that angle, he just strangely looks like a sock puppet, almost. like his head looks like a little sock puppet, like just holding on. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a nice day, and go pet your goober dogs.